Amazing moment, billionaire discovers hidden kindness as waitress feeds his blind son. Transformative revelation. Jake Marshall sat in a booth at the modest diner, feeling like an apparition in his own life. The smell of greasy fries and strong coffee swirled around him, nostalgia tugging at the edges of his cold, calculated existence. He had come home to finalize the plans to demolish this very place, replacing it with yet another sterile corporate office, a move that reeked of ambition but also of desperation. The din of clinking cutlery and lively chatter faded into the background as he fixed his gaze on a waitress across the room. Emma was feeding her blind son, Max, in a way that captivated him more than his portfolio's valuation ever could. It was the way she smiled at him, nurturing every morsel like it held the keys to the universe. As Jake watched their interaction, that gnawing emptiness he'd felt for years intensified, twisting tighter in his gut. This was life, he couldn't help but think. Raw, messy, authentic, and filled with love, everything his own world lacked. The phone buzzing in his pocket broke through his reverie. It was his top executive, a voice laden with urgency. Jake, we need to close the deal on the diner. Investors won't wait forever. The demand clashed violently with the openness he felt watching Emma with Max. She had recently lost her husband, leaving her with the weight of a single-income family pressed against the bare walls of this diner. The longing in her eyes as she coaxed a smile out of her son reflected everything Jake had sacrificed on his climb, a reminder of the family and community he had distanced himself from. He clenched his jaw, wrestling with the contradiction twirling in his mind. Making this deal would solidify his legacy, yet the thought of Emma losing her job, her stability, was unbearable. She deserved better, a solid foundation to raise Max, not the risk of gentrification at the hands of his ambition. Yet the ticking clock in his pocket felt like a synapse firing, reminding him how quickly wealth transforms into power, power that could just as swiftly slip away. Jake caught Emma's eye, and for a fleeting moment, they shared an unspoken understanding. It was as if she could see through his tailored persona to the storm brewing inside. Just as he prepared to stand and make a decision that would alter everything, his phone buzzed again, demanding his attention, pulling him back into his meticulously built world. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The anguish of his competing worlds twisted like a knot in his chest. Outside, the sun shone brightly over his hometown, but inside, he felt the darkness encroaching. A sense of urgency gripped him, the knowledge that every second spent deliberating the fate of the diner was a second lost to the joy that Emma and Max shared at that very moment. Could he step away from the life he crafted with such tenacity? Did he even know whom he was without the armor of his wealth? As doubt clawed at him, he lingered in that booth, trapped between the weight of responsibility and a desperate need for connection. Would he remain a billion-dollar ghost haunting a diner, or would he dare to choose something greater than himself, something he thought he'd forfeited long ago? Jake pressed the screen of his phone, cutting the call short. The voice on the other end faded into silence, and the weight of the moment wrapped around him like a heavy cloak. He inhaled deeply, taking in the scent of grease and salt, a stark contrast to the polished surfaces of the corporate world he inhabited. This diner was far from the world of high-stakes negotiations and strategic board meetings. Here, humanity thrived amidst humble meals and shared laughter. He stood abruptly, the decision manifesting as an impulsive urge that threatened to break the chains of expectation binding him. What would happen if he walked away from the life that had become a gilded cage? A sense of rebellion surged within him as he stepped closer to Emma and her son, his heart pounding as if synchronizing with the rhythm of the diner. Once at their table, Emma looked up, surprise brimming in her warm gaze. "Can I help you?" she asked, her demeanor shifting from maternal focus to cautious curiosity. Jake fumbled for words that would bridge the vast chasm between their lives. "I was thinking perhaps there's a future for this diner beyond what I've planned." Emma's brow furrowed. "You want to save it?" "Save it? No. I want to give it purpose. I don't want to tear it down," he confessed, his voice almost a whisper but saturated with conviction. Her eyes widened, disbelief flickering like a candle flame before being doused by the weight of his previous intentions. "But, the investors, your plans." "Plans change." The boldness of his statement startled even him. "I've spent too long chasing something that doesn't matter." I thought success was defined by wealth, but I found that real richness is the connection between people. Your connection with Max, he gestured gently toward her son, that's what it's about. Emma studied him, trying to decipher the truth behind his words. You don't know what you're giving up. This is your chance to make it bigger, more powerful. Bigger, I senti always better, he countered while grappling against the lingering fears of insignificance. What if I could invest in this diner, support it instead? What if we could create something that serves the community, rather than replace it? A flicker of hope ignited in Emma's eyes, but a shadow of skepticism loomed large. That is a noble idea, Jake, but what is in it for you? The question reverberated in Jake's mind, a reminder of the multitude of ways he had benefited from ambition. Yet, in this moment, his motivations transformed. I want to find purpose, he admitted, vulnerability seeping into his tone. I want to forge something meaningful, not just profitable. Her skepticism softened, revealing a hint of caution mingled with intrigue. And how do you plan to make it work? I don't know, he confessed, the admission unsettling yet liberating. But I'll figure it out. I need to. I've learned too late that financial success doesn't equate to personal fulfillment. As they delved deeper into the possibilities and practicalities of this unexpected venture, Jake felt an undeniable shift occurring within him. The chains of expectations loosened, allowing glimmers of a purpose he never knew he was searching for. Each idea sparked showed him not just a path forward, but also a way back to the person he had lost. But as they strategized, the phone buzzed again in his pocket, interrupting the moment. It was a group chat with his executives, pressing urgent updates about the deal. The starkness of the impending decision loomed large once more, tugging at him to return to his former life. Would he return to the boardroom, pushing past convictions at the mercy of financial goals? Or would he step into the light, challenge the very values that had once defined him, and embrace this opportunity for redemption? The weight of the world pressed down, and Jake realized it was now or never. He needed to decide what kind of legacy did he truly want to leave behind. As uncertainty coiled tighter around him, a voice in the back of his mind urged him to confront the unspoken truth. The moment of reckoning had arrived. Jake's heart thudded heavily in his chest as he pulled his phone from his pocket, staring at the screen, mildly aware of Emma's eyes fixed on him. Yet, his attention was consumed by the flurry of texts demanding his immediate response. He felt tethered to both everything he had known and all that was unfolding before him. I need to respond, he stuttered, feeling torn between two worlds, the relentless corporate grind and this serene diner that harbored the promise of real humanity. Emma's expression twisted through concern and frustration. You can walk away, you know. It's your life. Those are just texts. What is your boss going to do, fire you? The challenge irked him, forcing him to confront just how ensnared in an invisible web of obligation he had become. I spent years building that life, he found himself saying. It's hard to just walk away. But you're not happy, are you? Her voice was relentless, like a match striking the dry timbers of his self-doubt. He hesitated, measuring the truth against the years spent climbing the corporate ladder. No, I'm not. I've been running. Then stop, she urged, leaning forward as if to draw more of his truth out. It's scary but necessary. Is it even possible to change that? Jake pondered, his own voice now thick with uncertainty. Everything is possible, she replied with quiet confidence. But it starts with a decision. Decision. The weight of that word hit him harder than the previous barrage of texts. What had he really gained from chasing his ambitions? A fortified bank account or a hollow sense of achievement? He had sacrificed friendships, quality time with loved ones, and his own peace. Would he trade a life of people for power once again? Maybe I need to go, he announced, a sudden urgency igniting within him. Emma regarded him quietly, a depth of understanding reflected in her eyes. Then do it, Jake. Don't let fear anchor you back. You've already spent too much of your life on the wrong track. With resolve coursing through his veins, he began to compose a response, his fingers dancing across the screen. He typed a simple message, I'm pulling out of the deal. Let us discuss this later. A blast of anxiety surged through him, but there was liberation in the act. Done, he said, glancing up to catch Emma's playful smirk. Feels different. Good. Now let us talk about what it would mean to invest in this diner, she prompted. What do you want it to feel like? Jake's mind swirled with ideas and aspirations, intermingling with doubts that lingered stubbornly in the shadows. He envisioned the diner as a community hub, a place where families could gather, where connection thrived over clinking plates and laughter rather than solitary profit margins. A place that feels like home, he declared, an image slowly blossoming in his mind. As they brainstormed, concepts unfurled easily. A revamp of the menu focused on locally sourced ingredients, weekly community events highlighting local artists, special discount days for low-income families. Ideas poured forth, each one stirring a sense of purpose within him that had long lain dormant. But even amid this burgeoning creativity, a nagging voice within whispered doubts. What if he didn't have the ability to make it a reality? What if the corporate world sent out an SOS, a call for him to return to what he was good at? The anxiety clashed with his daring aspirations, an inner turmoil that mirrored the chaos of the past few months. Suddenly, the diner door swung open, a sudden clash of cold night air flooding in, breaking into their focused energy. Jake's eyes met a small family ushered inside, their laughter melting into the warmth of the diner, grounding him once more in the vibrancy that pulsed in the air. As a harsh reality loomed, one thing became clear: each moment Jake spent here was rife with choices and purpose. It was a confrontation of past failures and future possibilities, a place where he could rewrite his legacy. Jake's focus narrowed on Emma, determination emblazoned across his features. We have to make this happen. But a ringing phone broke his concentration, a deep frown creasing his brow as he read the name on the screen. It was his mentor, a voice from the past urging him back to the corporate battlefield. The path ahead was uncertain, and with every tick of the clock, Jake felt the pressure mount. Could he truly abandon everything he had built? Would he dare challenge the expectations once more? As he stood at this pivotal crossroads, the doors swung open wider, and the world outside beckoned him with both promise and peril, ready to test the very foundations of who he had become. Jake's thumb hovered over the screen, the ringing phone emanating a vibration that disrupted the warm, bustling atmosphere of the diner. His mentor's name gleamed unattractively, a reminder of the life he was questioning. The moment felt seismic, charged with decisions that couldn't be taken lightly. As the sound of laughter and dishes clattering faded into the background, Jake's heart sank. The thought of returning to that world felt like a betrayal of the moment he was currently savoring, the sense of possibility and creativity swirling with Emma's bright energy. He hesitated, feeling the weight of expectation draping across his shoulders like a heavy cloak. Are you going to answer? Emma asked, her voice steady but probing, pulling him back into the present. I should, he replied, torn. I'd be an idiot not to. Or maybe you'd be brave to choose differently, she countered, leaning closer. The intensity of her gaze challenged him, urging him to choose authenticity over obligation. He finally silenced the phone, but its echo reverberated inside him. Passion and conviction warred with fear and duty, each vying for dominance over his thoughts. What if it's a mistake? Jake whispered, the words fumbling into the air. Do you want to regret not taking a chance? Her question hung in the space between them, unsettling yet invigorating. Jake pondered, his gut twisted uncomfortably at the notion of a life measured solely by fear rather than fulfillment. They resumed their brainstorming, each idea more vibrant than the last. Anchoring the diner in the community was simply a project for Jake. It was an opportunity to engage with the world outside his self-imposed exile. As he envisioned it as a space of gathering, warmth, and genuine connection, a burgeoning idea solidified. He didn't just want to run a diner, he wanted to transform lives. The sweat beneath his palms betrayed his growing excitement, but shadows of doubt crept back in to challenge this epiphany. I have no experience with this sort of thing, he admitted, clenching his fists subconsciously. What if everything I touch turns to dust? Or it turns to gold, Emma countered, her voice laced with unwavering belief. You've spent years in a battlefield where only numbers mattered. You have the skills, Jake. Leadership, vision, even a business acumen that can propel you towards success. You just need to pivot, to embrace what you've instinctively craved all along. Possibility ignited in him, battling against the remnants of sabotage planted by years of corporate conditioning. But what if I fail? He pressed, fixating on the fear that clung to him like a heavy fog. Failure isn't the end, it's a teacher, she responded, each word carefully chosen. What matters is that you try, that you invest in something that could mean more than just profitability. Lean into that fear. Use it. The spark of his resolve flickered. Perhaps he could have both a safe harbor in this diner and a connection to his past experiences. Could he, the man who thrived in timelines filled with spreadsheets and sales forecasts, also be someone who could nourish creativity and connection. As if on cue, the waiter approached with a coffee pot, filling their mugs. Jake cradled the warm cup in his hands, drawing strength from its heat. "Let us do this," he pronounced, brown-eyed determination igniting into clarity. "Let us make it more than just a diner. Let us create a vibrant experience, a place that feels alive." Emma's expression broke into a smile of encouragement, but behind her exaltation loomed the uncertainties of the unknown, the risks associated with every bold step. Just then, a familiar weight settled in his pocket. The phone buzzed again, but this time Jake didn't flinch. Starting with the menu, he began, and with that, ideas emanated once more like bright fireworks illuminating the darkness of uncertainty. The notion of crafting this diner into an experience that meant something flooded him with energy. Amid the whirlwind of brainstorming, thoughts began to crystallize. Yet, a dark cloud hovered in the background, the call from his mentor still unresolved. Would the shadow of that world continue to darken his burgeoning vision? Once more, the phone buzzed, a reminder that the past was never truly behind him. The tension gripped him as he raised his head to meet Emma's eyes, a silent agreement passing between them. He couldn't afford to let fear dictate his future. "Next steps," he declared, each word an act of defiance. "What is our immediate plan?" As they delineated strategies and timelines, a thrill of purpose surged through him, but he sensed the impending storm growing closer. Would he have the strength to face what lurked behind him? As excitement wove into anxiety, Jake felt the pull of both potential and peril, a reminder that sometimes, the most significant battles were the ones fought within oneself. And just as they were about to outline their first steps, a crashing sound came from the kitchen, followed by a panicked shout. Jake's heart raced, the gravity of every commitment pressing against him. What had he truly signed up for? Jake's gaze snapped toward the kitchen, a swirl of anxiety and intrigue igniting within him. The commotion echoed a chaotic warning, prickling at the edges of his newfound sense of purpose. The laughter and chatter around him faded, the moment suspended in a mix of anticipation and dread. "Should we check it out?" Emma leaned closer, her voice barely more than a whisper, but laden with urgency. Without waiting for an answer, Jake sprang to his feet, the heat of the coffee cup still lingering in his hands, fueling his adrenaline. Each step felt heavy yet necessary, as uncertainty churned in his gut. The bustling diner, filled with potential and warmth, had suddenly morphed into a space fraught with risks darker than he had anticipated. As he pushed through the swinging doors, the cacophony from the kitchen intensified. A few staff members darted back and forth, their expressions torn between concern and haste. And then he saw the source of chaos, a fallen stack of plates spread across the floor like shards of disappointment, the air thick with a mix of shouts and lower murmurs about an injured cook. Jake's instinct kicked in. Wasn't this what he had signed up for, a chance to be part of something greater? A spark of leadership ignited within him, a side he had buried beneath spreadsheets and bottom lines. "Okay, everyone, let us take a deep breath," he yelled, projecting authority that surprised even himself. "What is happening? Who is hurt?" A young waitress, eyes wide with distress, pointed toward the back. "Danny," he slipped. "We need an ice pack. And a mop too, you can't let customers see this." In that moment, Jake felt the pulse of the diner shift. Suddenly, it was not just about how to serve customers better, but about ensuring those behind the scenes felt valued. He moved quickly, picking up a nearby mop and glancing around the room, mentally calculating who else could help stabilize the situation. "Emma," he called, spotting her at the doorway. "Can you grab the first aid kit from the counter? We need to get it over here." She nodded, determination flashing in her eyes. As she rushed to comply, Jake turned back to the kitchen. He bent down to help the cook off the floor, an arm slipping around Danny's back to assist him. "You all right, buddy?" he asked, his voice low and steady, grounding him. Danny groaned, cradling his arm. "I think I might have twisted it." "Let us get you looked at," Jake replied, focusing on the immediate need rather than the impending impact on business. Was this part of what he wanted? To care about the people behind the food. The clatter around him began to dissolve, replaced by the dawning realization that this was more than a diner, it was a community of individuals who needed direction and empathy. As Emma returned with the first aid kit, he felt a swell of gratitude toward her. Together, they made a real difference in a moment that could have spiraled out of control. The adrenaline pulsed through him, aligning his mind. Steering his thoughts back to the thrilling vision of the diner he had just begun to crystallize, he began to wonder about the culture within this space. What if they could create an environment where every mistake was met with understanding, every setback with support? What if this wouldn't just be a diner, but a sanctuary, a home away from home? Let us make this right, he murmured to Emma as they patched up Danny and cleaned the mess. Not just for today, but moving forward. We're going to do things differently here. As the chaos subsided, Jake felt a sense of clarity uncoil inside him. Each challenge, each misstep had the power to teach, to reinforce the fabric of teamwork and connection. This was the path he had chosen, the journey he was committed to, and if anything threatened to undermine it, he would be ready. Yet, just as the moment of hope solidified, the phone buzzed in his pocket again, nagging, relentless, a reminder that shadows of the past still loomed. Would he have to confront what was waiting on the other side of that call? Jake's heart began to race, uncertainty now creeping alongside determination. What message awaited him, and would it reinforce his newfound mission or tear at the seams of the life he sought to build? Jake stood at the edge of the now quiet kitchen, the echoes of chaos still reverberating in his mind. The little victory of helping Danny had sparked something within him, a flicker of confidence igniting a flame of commitment. But as reality set back in, he continued to grapple with his own internal conflict. What kind of leader did he truly aspire to be in this bustling diner, and was he prepared for the challenges that lay ahead? He turned his gaze to Emma, who was filling out an incident report with the same sense of urgency she had when rushing for the first aid kit. She looked purposeful, focused. This was the beginning of something new, and he felt an excitement bubbling beneath his skin. The anticipation of shaping a positive culture filled him with a sense of responsibility that he had never reckoned with before. Emma, he started, his voice steady as he interrupted her concentration. This needs to go beyond just an incident report. We should have regular meetings, check-ins to ensure that everyone here feels supported. It's important that we learn from this. Emma paused, her pen hovering above the paper. You're right. But how do we frame these discussions? People are often hesitant to share problems. Jake considered her question. What if we created a safe space? A place where mistakes are treated as learning opportunities instead of failures. We could even start by sharing our own missteps, modeling that vulnerability could encourage others to do the same. He watched as Emma's eyes widened, comprehending the depth of the initiative. That could really change the way the team interacts. But you know, being vulnerable is tough. Are you ready to be that open? The question pierced through him like a sharp knife. He had always hidden behind professional facades and corporate strategies, but he felt an undeniable pull to embrace this new transparency. I think I have to be. This is about more than just management, it's about leadership. I've learned that I can't just push through and ignore what is uncomfortable. With renewed determination, Jake pushed aside his insecurities. He picked up the mop, a self-initiated reminder that action spoke louder than strategies. Let us get the staff together after hours today. We can discuss priorities, expectations, and how we react to problems rather than avoid them. A small smile broke across Emma's face, her excitement infectious. I'm all in, Jake. We should call it a team reset. The phone buzzed again in his pocket. He hesitated, fingers trembling slightly as he debated answering. The shadows of his past loomed larger with each ring, a constant reminder of the risks that came with vulnerability. Jake. You okay? Emma's query distracted him from the buzzing phone. He took a deep breath, the decision to ignore the call solidifying within him. He could face the past later, but right now, he needed to focus on the present, on building this emerging culture. Yeah, I just need to prioritize what matters. And right now, that is us. As they worked to clean the kitchen and reinvigorate the atmosphere of the diner, he couldn't shake the feeling that they were charting a new path, a foundation forged in values he had long neglected. The uncertainty of what awaited him outside these doors seemed insignificant compared to the mission at hand. Yet, as the last of the dishes were cleared away, the phone buzzed once more, a nagging reminder that moments of clarity often came before storms. Would he have the resolve to confront what was waiting for him, to emerge fully into this new phase of his life, both personally and professionally? The tension thickened, as the urgency from the call hung heavily in the air, the question lingering, could he reconcile his past with the transformative vision he was beginning to embrace? As the last dish was scrubbed clean and the kitchen glimmered under the fluorescent lights, Jake felt the weight of anticipation settle in. Today was going to be a turning point, he could almost taste the crisp excitement in the air. He gathered the staff, the expressions a mix of curiosity and apprehension. This was uncharted territory for everyone, and the prospect of discussing vulnerabilities rattled many. "Thank you for coming, everyone," he began, feeling the pulse of his heart quickening. He took a steadying breath, channeling the calm he had started to cultivate. "We've gone through some chaos recently, and it's important we have a conversation about how we move forward together. This isn't just about the diner, it's about supporting each other." There were murmurs of agreement, but Jake could see the skepticism in their eyes. He cleared his throat, needing to cut through the doubt. "I know being open and vulnerable can be uncomfortable. It's not something any of us are used to in this industry, but I truly believe it's essential. I want us to treat our mistakes as learning opportunities, not failures. Isn't that how we all grow?" To his surprise, a hand shot up from the back of the group. Michaela, a part-time server whose quiet demeanor he had often misread. What if someone shares something really personal and it gets used against them? How do we ensure safety? Jake felt the challenge. "That's a valid concern, Michaela," he acknowledged, nodding towards her as he felt an unfamiliar resolve solidifying. "What I propose is that we commit to confidentiality. If we open our doors, it has to be with understanding that we're here to lift each other up, not tear each other down." Silence settled in, thick with the weight of Jake's promise and the still looming doubts. He could sense that Michaela had resonated with others' fears too. With every second of quiet, Jake wrestled with his intention, questioning if he could launch into this new vision while battling the ghosts of his past. Taking the plunge, he went first. "I'll start. I've made mistakes in my role as a leader over the past year. I've let my fears dictate how I handle tough situations. I've kept people at a distance because I thought it would be easier to avoid conflict." He paused, gauging their reactions. The truth is, facing them head-on is far more powerful. Several staff members exchanged glances, and he could feel skepticism mixed with intrigue. The initiative required not just transparency but also trust, and it was clear he had to build it from the ground up. He looked at Emma, who had always been a backbone for him, her encouragement prompting him to challenge himself and the team. Encouraged, he invited others to share. He didn't expect immediate openness, but as names began to emerge, Danny shared his anxiety about failing in front of customers, while another server voiced her frustration over the chaotic hours. Jake felt a shift in the atmosphere. With each confession, barriers began to drop. Noticing how the tension unordered in the room, Jake dared to imagine a stronger team beyond the discussions. Possibilities sparked with the potential for genuine connection and shared growth. But alongside this progress, remnants of his past loomed, casting a shadow he couldn't ignore. What would happen when the walls he built around himself began to crumble under this newfound truth? The phone buzzed persistently in his pocket, an unwelcome reminder of distractions outside of this pivotal moment. The time would come to address that call to reconcile his past. As the meeting closed, Jake felt lighter yet burdened, the delicate balance of progress and impending confrontation swirling within him. The challenge would be continuing to embrace vulnerability even when confronted head-on by what he feared most. He gathered his courage and made a decision: he would answer the call before the day was over. Yet, would the conversation bring clarity or plunge him back into the chaos he had sought to escape? Jake sat behind the diner's counter, his thoughts a chaotic storm of anticipation and dread. The meeting had left him stirred, a clarity emerging about the personal changes he needed to embrace. Each staff member's admission had ignited hope, yet his phone, a reminder of unresolved issues, buzzed like an angry hornet, threatening to pull him back into the shadows he was trying to escape. He squeezed the phone in his palm, contemplating the implications of his next decision. Would calling back mean inviting chaos, or could it offer the very resolution he sought? Deep inside, he knew that facing the past was an essential part of his journey. Resolute, he tapped the screen to dial, but as it rang, a wave of uncertainty washed over him. The voice on the other end was familiar yet distant: his older brother, Adam, whose own struggles had turned into a cloud hanging over their family. The weight of years of unresolved conflict bore heavily on Jake's shoulders. "Hey, it's Jake," he said, summoning courage. "Jake. Thanks for calling back," Adam replied, his tone flat and cautious. "I heard all those changes you're trying to make at the diner." It was a question but a note laden with judgment. Jake's stomach twisted. "Yeah, I think it's time for change, you know." The words stumbled out, a defensive instinct rising. Memories flashed a younger Jake, always trying to gain Adam's approval but constantly falling short. This conversation felt like another chance to prove himself, but at what cost? Adam's silence bore down heavily. Just be careful. Leadership doesn't change who you are deep down. You can't run from your past. I'm not trying to run, Jake insisted, frustration bubbling to the surface. I'm trying to grow. There was another long pause. Jake could feel the distance, like there was an ocean between them, filled with unspoken words. Have you acknowledged everything that has happened? All those mistakes. You can't just skip over them, man. A swell of shame churned in Jake's chest. The vulnerability he had encouraged around the diner felt like it had all the power to backfire in this very moment with Adam. He had opened up to his team, but the thought of doing the same with his brother, of admitting where he had failed, seemed daunting. I get it, I really do, Jake said, voice more subdued. But I need to keep moving forward. Moving forward doesn't mean forgetting, Adam's voice softened, a glimmer of concern breaking through the coldness. You need to confront it, Jake. What have you done with all that guilt? The question hung in the air. What had he done? He had conjured a new space for his team, held inappropriate conversations with strangers, but had he ever truly faced his own haunting choices? I am trying to be better, for them, for me. And what about for us? The question was loaded with a depth Jake hadn't anticipated. A flood of memories washed over him, family gatherings where he felt less like a brother and more like a stranger. An ache settled in his chest. As the conversation dragged on, a flicker of realization ignited something inside him. Adam wasn't the enemy, he was a mirror reflecting Jake's own insecurities and unhealed wounds. This connection was worth salvaging, despite the pain. Jake inhaled deeply. Maybe I'm ready to talk about it. About everything. Let us meet. Just us, Adam suggested cautiously. Jake glanced around the dim diner, his staff buzzing with newfound energy, their vulnerabilities laid bare. In the midst of his fears, there was a burgeoning desire for reconciliation, for authentic growth, and for fostering not just a stronger team but a deeper connection with the people who mattered most, starting with Adam. Okay, I'll set a time, Jake replied. We can face what we've built together. The call ended, leaving a heavy silence that was both liberating and daunting. He had taken a step forward, one that he knew would force him to confront not just his complicated family dynamics but also the very nature of his identity. But what if this exploration cracked open wounds he was ready to face? As his heart raced with both dread and excitement, the question loomed larger: could he confront the past without losing grip on the present he was striving to build? With resolve swirling amidst uncertainty, Jake wiped down the counter and prepared to step into the intricate web of personal and professional evolution that lay ahead, one brave conversation at a time. The following days felt like a relentless tide, pushing and pulling Jake into deeper introspection. Each day at the diner was a new chance to fine-tune his leadership, yet the impending meeting with Adam loomed like a storm cloud on the horizon. He felt the weight of expectation not just from his brother, but from the very essence of who he wanted to be. Determined to keep moving forward, he channeled his energy into the diner, meticulously planning an event aimed at fostering a better team dynamic. He flirted with ideas, sketching out a community board where staff could post personal goals and reflections. It felt right making the diner a space not just for food, but for growth. He envisioned each staff member fostering their own unique journey, yet the thought of addressing his own past gnawed at him. In the evenings, once the diner hummed with the lull of satisfied customers, Jake found himself stealing moments of solitude. He'd lean against the counter, the lingering smell of coffee enveloping him, and reflect on how deeply his approach to vulnerability and leadership needed to extend beyond the diner, into his family life. His phone, still alive with notifications, felt like a judgment as it buzzed once more. It was a text from Clara, one of his employees who had been pushing for more open communication. The team loved the idea. Let us talk when you have time. Her enthusiasm rekindled the spark inside him, but he quickly grappled with the lunacy of dropping everything for his crew while allowing the fracture with Adam to persist. Jake closed his eyes, envisioning their upcoming conversation. He wondered how he could align the growth he facilitated at the diner with the painful truths of their past. Would he be able to open up to Adam the same way he had encouraged his team to do? The discrepancy between who he was becoming and the person he used to be felt unsettlingly vast. The day before their scheduled meeting, Jake found a moment to lay out his thoughts on a notepad, searching for clarity before confronting his brother. He wrote down everything: fears, expectations, regrets, even dreams he had shelved away. The act of penning it down served as a cathartic release, illuminating all the aspects of himself he had neglected for far too long. But the spectre of failure whispered in the back of his mind, what if he couldn't express himself? What if Adam dismissed his efforts as mere words? The fear of rejection stung sharper than he expected. That night, Jake lay awake, wrestling with the haunting questions that skated around his consciousness. What if he faced Adam and it only deepened their disconnect? The prospect of revealing his vulnerabilities felt daunting, yet simultaneously invigorating. There was potential for reconciliation as long as he remained committed to honesty. As dawn broke, illuminating his dingy room with a soft glow, he felt a flicker of resolve reignite within him. Perhaps there was strength in vulnerability, the same strength he had hoped to inspire in others. With a newfound determination, he dressed with purpose, each article of clothing signaling a step further into the man he desired to become, not just for himself but for those he loved. Right before leaving for the diner, a sudden impulse struck. He pulled out a blank card and scrawled, "Let us talk about everything," before tucking it into his pocket, a tangible reminder of his commitment. Before he stepped into the diner, his heart beat with a mix of trepidation and excitement. Today was not just about strengthening his team but forging a truer version of himself, one conversation at a time. But as he approached the diner door, preparations buzzed inside him, reminders of the pivotal path ahead. What awaited him in the moments to come could either solidify his growth or unravel everything he had worked toward. He opened the door, the bell chiming, filling the air with a fresh wave of energy. The hour of truth was drawing nearer, and with it, Jake pondered if he was truly ready to embrace both his past and his future. Would he unite these two worlds, or would they clash catastrophically? With every beat of his heart, he felt the heaviness of unanswered questions merge with the vibrant hope of possibility. Jake stood behind the counter of the diner, his eyes scanning over the familiar faces of his staff, now transformed into a tight-knit community he never dreamed could arise from the very place he once sought to destroy. Emma had ignited a fire within him, fueling an urgency to create a nurturing environment where both staff and patrons could find connection and purpose. He felt the tremors of anxiety, but this was different. He embraced it as he anticipated meeting Adam. The previous day's preparation had felt cathartic. Writing his fears, aspirations, and regrets had divested the shadows of uncertainty that once clung tightly, whispering doubts in his ears. With clarity now grounding him, he was determined to forge a new future. As morning slipped into afternoon and the diner bustled with regulars, Jake gathered his team for their scheduled gathering. "Today is bigger than just another meeting," he said, scanning their attentive faces. He could feel the energy in the air, their interest piqued, a palpable sign of growth and hope. "I want us to discuss how we can keep transforming the space into more than just a diner. I've learned the hard way that our job isn't simply to serve, it's to connect." Without hesitation, Emma stepped forward, her voice steady. "Let us create a place where everyone feels they belong," she encouraged. "A refuge where both mistakes and victories can be shared without fear." The room buzzed with resonance. Ideas surged among the staff, a community board in the dining area showcasing their aspirations, themed nights highlighting local artists, and collaboration with nearby families to ensure the diner served everyone. Jake could feel each idea solidifying a strong foundation within him as their goals aligned. This wasn't only about improving a business, it was a chance to foster deeper connections. They could cultivate an atmosphere steeped in support, camaraderie, and trust, all elements he now recognized as fundamental to his leadership role. "Now," Jake began, "let us take a moment to talk about vulnerability, how it applies not just here but to all aspects of our lives." The atmosphere thickened with introspection. He opened up about the call he had with Adam, expressing his hopes of reconciling their strained relationship. "As I step into that conversation, I realize that honesty is my best weapon. Facing my past can gain me a stronger connection, not just with my brother, but with myself as well." The room filled with a new understanding as they nodded, witnessing Jake's commitment not just to them, but also to himself. "The next step is to commit to this process, both in our work and our lives." In the coming hours, they devised strategies to integrate vulnerability into their daily lives. Emma suggested a check-in ritual where team members shared one personal goal each week. Questions of growth would saturate every meeting, nurturing a culture of openness. But with the progress made, the specter of the impending conversation with Adam loomed ever closer. As he spun the idea in his mind, Jake caught a glimpse of awakening strength. This was a chance to rebuild. The cares that had weighed him down were beginning to lift. Finally, the clock read 5 p.m., marking the end of the meeting and signaling the time for Jake to meet his brother. He didn't hesitate, pushing through the door, knowing that while uncertainty might still linger, he had established a solid foundation both within the diner and himself. As he arrived at the agreed-upon cafe, he spotted Adam seated at the table, tensely awaiting his arrival. Jake's heart raced, but he fought the instinct to retreat. He took a deep breath, summoning the strength he had unearthed in the days leading up to this moment. "Hey," Adam greeted with a half-hearted smile, scanning Jake's face for signs of his change. "Hey," Jake replied, pulling out the chair across from him. "I'm really glad we are doing this." The conversation began, at first rocky and hesitant. But as he opened up about the depth of his journey thus far, about the diner, Emma's influence, and the revelations that reshaped who he was, he felt the walls around their relationship begin to crack. "Jake, I wasn't sure if the person I knew could adapt, let alone genuinely embrace vulnerability," Adam admitted, tension unraveling in his voice. "I didn't believe it myself," Jake confessed, sincerity spilling forth. "But I realized that success isn't just about what we accomplish. It's also about who we are, about making amends and nurturing connection. Our lives are interwoven, and it's time we recognize that." "That is bold," Adam responded, genuine interest illuminating his features. "But what if it doesn't work out?" "What if?" Jake interjected gently. "What if it does? The only way we rise is by being honest. I want us to forge a better relationship together, moving forward. I don't want to be defined by failures, but rather by how we choose to overcome them." With time, Adam's demeanor softened, understanding flickering in his eyes. This wasn't just about reconciling past grievances but forging a lasting bond enriched by empathy and growth, a resolution forged from vulnerability. As they continued to talk, laughter broke the tension, and they both realized a new beginning was forming. Following their heartfelt exchange, Jake felt an overwhelming sense of accomplishment wash over him. This was true growth, founded upon recognition, reflection, and the courage to forge connections. Leaving the cafe, Jake's heart soared, buoyed by the excitement of what was yet to come, not just within the confines of the diner but rippling outward into every facet of his life. This marked a defining moment for him. Transformation had rooted deeply, connecting past struggles to newfound strength. Jake was no longer merely a man vying for recognition, he was evolving into someone capable of nurturing genuine bonds both in business and family. And so, standing under the warm glow of the setting sun, the horizon stretched wide ahead. Confident, determined, and rooted in the understanding that vulnerability was the gateway to true connection, Jake had finally stepped into his resolved self. He had not only conquered his inner battles but had accomplished what he set out to: create a lasting legacy steeped in community and connection. This is the moment, the turning point, where he found peace and fulfillment in embracing authenticity. As the final rays of sunlight disappeared on the horizon, Jake smiled, stepping confidently forward into a brighter tomorrow. Now, it's your turn to take a leap. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm. Comment below with your reactions and theories about Jake's transformation. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. You need to subscribe now. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to share and inspire someone else's journey.